What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sneaker History Podcast. And yes, we are back with another version of Coffee Time Kicks, guys. I have the designer from Notwoways, one of my favorite brands. They've been doing some awesome stuff out there. I know you guys have seen my videos I put out on them, posts, things like that. But Mr. Rockwell, Princely, what's going on, brother? How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm great. Honestly, thank you for having me, man. This is a huge honor. I know we haven't really expanded much into the American market yet, but would love to talk about my story a little bit and
Yeah, man.
tell you what's up and what we're up to with No Two Ways. We've been going for 4 years now, so it seems like it's gone by like so fast, you know. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into
Yeah,
it.
man. It's only been 4 years. It seems like it's been like you guys have been working like longer than that. I mean, I guess when you're doing something good, it just resonates, right?
Honestly, it's crazy, and every day something else happens, right? Every week, every year. Like honestly, because at the end of the day, like we're just a couple of guys with some dreams, you know, and
hmm
we're trying to compete, or maybe our ego is getting in the way and thinking we're competing, but actually we're just a small little independent brand set in London, you know. But we like to think that we're pushing some boundaries or making people notice us, and just doing our thing and do what we love at the end of the day and bring something authentic to life, and that's what it's about, really.
Man, you definitely are making noise. I mean, when you have publications like Hype Beast, High Snobiety, Complex, those are when we talk sneakerheads. It's kind of like those hubs, those really aspirational media outlets people want to have, and you guys are being mentioned in those articles, those conversations. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, did you guys think that 4 years ago, you and Caleb starting this is like, hey, you know what? This is where we're gonna be. We're gonna be having our shoes and fashion shows, which I just saw you guys had your shoes
Yes,
featured.
that was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's huge, man.
Wow, when you put it like that, it does. No, I need to stop every now and then and realize some of the stuff that's going on, you know, like, because I'm always just going at 100. So it's like sometimes I just need to take a moment and be like, damn, we're actually doing something cool, you know? But of course, like at the end of the day, what I like to share with people is like, for me, the journey already it means so
Mhm,
much, you know? I know everyone is trying to generate some level of success, or the meaning of
mhm.
success is different for everybody. But for me specifically, it's already the journey that I'm embarking on, and even the opportunity to do it, but then also bring people along with me to share that journey and grow them to even better than I would ever be. You know, that's some of my reasoning for success.
Yeah,
But yeah, over the last 4 years, like when we started, even with the idea of No Two Ways, like we had a couple of examples, some very awesome examples. Because if anything, I was a YouTube consumer, if
yeah,
anything, right? So in that space back in 2019, just before COVID, really all that there was in the ecosystem, in the YouTube, I guess, footwear scene, if you want to call it that, was very much the collaborations that you might know with the likes of Seth Fowler and Kais Omar, doing some
yeah,
bits with We Are Underdogs and things, and
mhm,
I thought that was really cool because I was watching them growing up as well, and
yeah,
you know, watching their unboxings when I copped the shoe, you know, back in those
for
days,
sure.
you know, and I was just a consumer. And then what I then learned from that was that even though it was a very cool product and a cool story and all these other things, it was never really able to outlast a couple of drops.
Yeah,
So for me, when I was explaining this to Carl, like we understood that there is space for someone to come in and really take it by storm,
mhm,
but for it to outlive a couple of releases or build a brand legacy whilst tied to a YouTuber in that time,
mhm.
that was like the hardest bit of it, because YouTube is generally considered, anything that YouTubers create are generally merch
Yep.
related, or it's just an extension of them. Whereas with this brand, Carl didn't just want it to be an extension of him. It was more something that could outlive him and grow way bigger
Mhm.
than he ever could. Of course, we can still use his audience to sort of capitalize on
Yeah,
learning, on feedback, and have sort of a quick start on generating some information and data to see what the consumers want. But of course, this is
yeah,
only one subset of the market. So we really had to learn, why are we doing it? What is it for?
yeah,
What is our design doing? Because it's so saturated, you know, and
yeah.
it's tricky to come with something completely new, yet relatable, that people don't think is just absolutely crazy and they're not going to buy into it. So it's really was about bringing community, bringing authenticity, being honest as well, and taking people on the journey and not just
Yeah.
showing them all the successes, but also the failures. And and along that journey, people really started to feel like they were building this brand with us. So we
Yeah.
definitely, at the very beginning, that was sort of the foundation, and trying to sort of get recognition, get validation through avenues such as community. So when I was growing up, I was very big in the Amsterdam community space, like the sneaker
Okay.
space in Amsterdam. um, I sort of got into shoes back in around 2008 when the Air Max 1 and Air Max 90s were very huge. And you had all the
Mhm.
Pata collabs coming up. And I was that
Yeah.
guy that would hide the Yeezy 1 Blink in the stock room at Foot Locker at 14 years old, because I was like, yo, I need this shoe, but they're not going to sell it to me as stuff, you know, so I'm going to hide it.
Hey, I ain't mad
Maybe,
at you, man. You
maybe I shouldn't share that, but oh well, who cares?
Hey,
This
it's too
ages
far.
ago.
I used to work at Champs, so I remember it's like we get shoes come in. It's like, all right, I can't afford this now. But I'm gonna put this on the side
You
somewhere.
know.
Size 10 for me. I'm gonna be back for it in a couple paychecks.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly how it was. And even back then, it was like I think it was like 230 euros retail, which is crazy for something in
Yeah,
2009, right?
yeah,
Like Jordans were like 110, 120 at that time or something. I can't really remember now,
yeah.
but
Now,
now they're skyrocketing, right? Even the fours now are like 225 next year. I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
yeah, it's too much.
But yeah, it's just awesome, and of course having that community sort of growing up in that space allowed me to understand what they were very much looking for.
Mhm.
But as well as that, it's like even fast forward to now. I know there's so many subheaders in this whole conversation, I'm
No,
sure,
no,
but
that's I love it. I love it.
like just to jump over all over the place because my brain works quite chaotically. But so like being there at the original Pata chlorophyll release back in '09, and then going to Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago now to get the 2024 pair, right? Like
Man,
I saw some people that I saw back then, but I had not seen for that whole time, right? And it's like really interesting, like to compare those cues, because those like OG heads, I guess, like have now gone older and they now have adult
yeah.
money, and it's like it's just awesome to see, because it's like just such a different consumer base than, for example, London even. So understanding that from the Amsterdam space and then coming to London sort of 11 years ago, um, and I'm only really now really getting into the whole community side of things, because it's sort of a new gen sneakerhead community here that
Really?
I guess before was very much powered by the likes of like Mr. Bailey, Mini Swoosh, and these
Mhm.
kind of people. Whereas now it's slightly more TikTok driven and slightly more
Yeah.
Instagram Reels driven, and still very awesome people. Like they're beautiful people, you know. And it's just an honor for me to have been sort of in the transition, but also have known who came before and who's coming now, um,
Yeah.
and to find sort of validation in both of those sides as the trajectory sort of changing in London is awesome. But yeah,
No, that's
I feel like
awesome.
I was
So, I
rambling
mean,
a while.
no, because it's funny because the things I was going to ask you, you just kept going. It's like, this is perfect. You saved me from talking a little bit. No, but so you grew up in Amsterdam, correct?
Yeah, so my
Okay.
family is actually from Suriname, South America.
Oh, okay.
So so Suriname is in between the Guyana. So you got Brazil, it's on the north coast. So you got the two Guyanas, French Guyana and British Guyana, and then
Uh huh.
Suriname is in the middle.
Ah,
So both my parents are from there, and they moved in the 80s to the Netherlands, and then I was born in the Netherlands and grew up there, and then moved to
oh,
London when I
cool.
was 17. So yeah.
Nice. All right. So the big difference in sneaker culture you've seen between Amsterdam and London. I mean, in my mind, never been to either, but you kind of get the snippets from social media and different, outlets. Sounds like Amsterdam again more Air Max driven. Seems like. I mean, London, I know still has their Air Max, but there's more of a soccer culture with sneakers there, right? More of like the maybe your Sambas, your
It's
Gazelles, things like
super
that.
interesting. Yeah, super interesting, because the way we look at our consumers, footwear consumers in general, and audience are a lot of different categories, right? Like we have
Mm-hmm.
our own consumer that we target, but because our brand is such an amalgamation of like people that are YouTube fans, fashion fans, footwear
Mm-hmm.
fans, others just like high quality stuff, but others are
Yeah.
like in finance, and all of these people have different sub cultures and sub interests, and maybe don't even know that Gorpcore is coming, and they don't actually care, you know? So it's a whole product cycle with early adopters, late adopters. I can go into that. But
Yeah.
like the contrast between Amsterdam, London, and even, for example, Madrid and
Mm-hmm.
Barcelona, where I spent some of my years as well, it's all very interesting because they're almost in parallel, but for different silhouettes almost. So, for example, Amsterdam, back in those days, it was very Air Max 1 and Air Max 90 driven.
Yeah.
Whereas London slash Liverpool, which are like the two key fashion cities, I guess, in the UK, or at least the ones
Yeah.
that we heavily look at, especially when it comes to like a wholesale distribution channel,
Yeah.
um, is the Air Max 95, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
all of those sort of translate and never go away. And it's interesting that you say like the football slash soccer culture and the sambas and these kind of things are of course very prominent right now or have been over the last 2 years. But then when you look at the total sales of the year for those shoes, like the samba is there because it wasn't there before, but
Yeah.
like the Air Force Ones are still selling the most. The Air Max 95s are still selling the most. You know,
Okay.
Nike is, even though they're going through a little hiatus, I guess, a little bit, they are still dominating the sales market, at least when we talk to our buyers around the different stores.
Yeah.
It's just interesting for like the samba to come in because it was a shoe that was always available, now has some mainstream relevancy and
Yeah.
everyone has a pair, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a total year of that shoe outsold like an Air Force One. You know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
interesting and how you look at it objectively. But absolutely,
Yeah.
sambas and football culture and the folded tongues and the stitch details and all these things are definitely here and they'll stay for the foreseeable future for sure. But whether it will overtake some of the iconic shoes, I'm not sure, you know, especially if you look at
Yeah.
2025 when Nike is going crazy with the Jordan 4s, I'm
Dumping
assuming because of
everything out of
the
everybody, man. They're like,
literally, right?
take it all. I
Like
mean,
all
I know
that.
one
I mean, it's,
shoe.
yeah.
One shoe that I know is definitely I forgot about Air Max 95 in London. That's such a huge shoe out there. But the Stash, like rework is supposed to be coming out. I know that's going to be a huge shoe out there. And I guess Cortez. I never say his name right. I feel like I know he's supposed to be
Yeah.
doing another shoe as well, another 95. So I completely forgot about 95s and how relevant they are out there. But that brings me to the question of when I look at you guys' shoe, I see a lot of different things. Like the Model 1, if we're looking at that one specifically, the layering reminds me of something like the 95s, but then the shape reminds me of more of kind of that higher fashion. You're looking at like your Balenciagas, your Gucci trainers, and then of course material wise, all fantastic. But you mentioned the word earlier, Gorp Core. You guys have really like great materials that endure the elements. So, what was the inspiration specifically for the Model One, since that was the first one you guys had to release?
For sure. I mean, I have the very first one right here, actually.
Nice.
I've got like my seventh favorite releases over here, but of course this has to be the best. You know, this was the
Yeah.
original release. There's actually a lot of things wrong with it, but it was purely aesthetics, right? Like the shape and the aesthetic of it, but it fitted half a size small and all these other things. But I mean, we were learning
Yeah.
along the way, right? But
Of
yeah, to
course.
get into that Model One sort of design process a little bit, it was, to be honest, like we started even the idea of it back in November 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't release that shoe until August of 2020. That of course includes the production lead time and
Yeah.
everything that comes before it. But yeah, I think we spent at least 3 to 4 months really diving into what the consumer needs and what they want and what are the things that we can sort of cover before you even get to the design. Because when
Yeah.
you get to like unique selling points, it's at that time again we have evolved, the industry has evolved so much since 2019, but like back then having those YouTube references as sort of the only reference
Mm-hmm.
point in that ecosystem, and the idea of trying to grow something real and authentic that would outgrow Kyle, those are some of the initial points, right? The
Yeah.
second part is like understanding, I guess, in a very much how Virgil would put it, like that you need a staple piece,
Mm-hmm.
that really will always stay, that is timeless, that is trans-seasonal, that would
Yeah.
outlive any other style that comes after. And that it was a challenge in its own, because how do you create a shoe that just becomes iconic out of its own right? And
Yeah.
that's not something that's even in your control. That's very much community driven. That's very much opinion driven, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it
For
takes
sure.
time for to build something like that. Um, Sorry, that was the doorbell.
No, no, you're good.
But I'll get someone else to get it. Hopefully, someone else is in. If not, it might go a few more times, but just ignore it.
Don't worry. If you gotta jump up
Um,
in, it's all good.
Thank you, thank you. But yeah, absolutely. I would say that the Model One is a almost a composition of multiple different silhouettes that we all love, but at the same
Okay.
time trying to bring some level of innovation into the world. One of the, I mean, there's about 8 different styles that I guess it could draw inspiration from. But for example, one of the bigger shoes, especially in Europe, in that space was, in my opinion, a disaster of a shoe. But it was the Fila Disruptor,
Oh yeah,
and
I remember.
that shoe, like out of nowhere, everyone and their sister had a pair. I was like, what is going
Yeah,
on here? Like,
it was
so
the
we
White Air
understood,
Force One
like,
for women for a while.
right? So, and because with us, like, we weren't just doing a men's collection, like it was a unisex UK3 to UK14. So I
Yeah.
think that's US4 till US15, I think. Um, and we understood that the women were very much wearing these Fila Disruptors, very chunky, all white shoes. And then the men were just coming out of this wave of like a lot of different Air Maxes, even the Air Max 270 around that time. Of
Yeah.
course, we had all these crazy collaborations a couple of years back, whether it's the 10 or the Sean Waterspoon and all these other shoes that that really allowed newness to become iconic,
Yep.
which is
Yeah.
rare, right? Like, because normally, like,
Yeah.
even when you go back into my collection, like, I've got a whole bunch of Jordan 1s of 85 or like the 2011 mags and all these other shoes that have, like, have hit like legendary status, but because through heritage, right?
Yeah.
Whereas these
Yep.
examples, like Sean Wotherspoon's shoe with Nike, the sort of hybrid shoe, with the 97 and the I think it was an Air Max 1 outsole,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
the corduroy one, that became iconic in like 2 years,
Hmm.
So I was really
Yeah.
trying to use these as case studies to try and understand what is it, like almost like a consumer psychology level of what is it that they value that means premium or means quality or means
Hmm.
consistency or that just validates the brand. And sometimes it was as simple as you put two Jordan 1s back to back and the counter pieces didn't line up. So it's like a QC issue. If that lines up,
Yeah.
it's a tick from them, right?
Yeah.
They're already happy. It's like simple production consistencies. Or if you're using tumbled leather, if one toe box is tumbled and the other one's less tumbled, just if it's not matching, like that's a problem. And
Yep.
it's actually a very simple step to match those pairs, even if the texture on the hide is not consistent. Like there is still a step you can do to match at least some of the pairs to make them look
Yeah.
like nothing's wrong with them, because someone would never know unless they bought like 5 pairs and one of the pairs was more tumbled and then another pair was less tumbled,
Yeah.
which is
Just going
normal, right?
one by one, just like checking them all
Right.
out.
But if
Yeah.
it's the same pair, like of course you're going to notice. So it was definitely just trying to understand the consumer psychology and what was missing from the market and what people wanted to
Yeah.
see. And what I guess, to fast forward a little bit, is what came out of it is, of course, a huge level of sustainability and sort of fair production wages, realistic expectations, especially in the
Yeah.
workspace when it came to manufacturing of shoes, but also sourcing the materials. So that's a lot
Hmm.
of things we don't even talk about.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there is a whole level of innovation that we try to put into the shoe, that because footwear sort of works in 2 year cycles. So I guess part of my concept was that I need to find things that people would want to copy in a couple of years' time, to the point where people would see that and be like, oh my goodness, they copied it from Notwoways.
Yeah.
So some of those elements came in where, for example, if you look at the eye stay,
Uh-huh.
it's not just the average eyelets, right? It's like a webbing that goes from the collar all the way down to the
Yeah.
vamp area to the bottom eyelid, and then it's hand embroidered boxes, sort of separating the eyelets. And that construction, I think, till this day has not been done, right? It's a
Oh,
it's a
for sure.
crazy production nightmare, to be honest, because all of these things are hand stitched and the consistency of it's crazy. I understand why people don't do it, but these are like small things that we need to do to set us apart from what exists, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
then another concept is like, I mean, I'm sure and it happens with so many shoes where the tongue like goes side to side
Oh
when you're
yeah, I
wearing
hate
it.
that.
Exactly right. So what I designed was sort of a different and completely new tongue construction, which was actually inspired by the Asics Gel 5 or 3. I can't remember whichever one has the split tongue a
Split
little
tongue?
bit.
Yeah, the threes. Yeah.
Yeah. So just that sort of that idea of just trying to do something different on the tongue, because the tongue all usually gets is what's missed in most of the designs, or they don't get
Yeah.
enough love. So just trying to create like a new color construction and have the tongue always sit in the middle, or be able to sort of put it on the outside and always have it sit in the middle,
Oh yeah, I didn't
or
think
just
about that.
just a couple of things that we like to do. Over the years, I mean, we'll get into it. It has evolved, but for that first shoe, we knew it had to be some level of commercial. We knew we wanted to have some of our original brand colors in it, which was the ice blue and the orange.
Yeah.
Um, and start to own certain details that would allow us to almost position ourselves as something innovative and not just following, but at the same time have enough mainstream relevancy that would allow us to capture some audiences that are late adopters or laggards almost, because they're as
Yeah.
important as the early adopters are. Like these later consumers and audiences are as important because they're the
Mhm.
ones that will make your product life cycle last longer, right?
Yep.
So these were some of the things going into the
Yeah.
Model 1, but at the end of it all, after getting all that feedback, all these different communities, they felt like they built a shoe together with us, right? So off the
Yeah.
back, when we launched the shoe, it just felt like the whole world was with us, and we just launched it and it just was
That's
crazy.
awesome.
And we
Yeah.
sold it out in 63 seconds, right? 750 pairs.
Oh,
And
really?
and we were like, oh shit, we're actually onto something here. 63
So
seconds, it's it.
you guys didn't do a pre-order. You guys went straight into, hey, we're gonna make a number. We're gonna release this number and see what
Hope for the
happens.
best.
Basically,
Yeah.
hey, in 63
Uh,
seconds, that is
That was the first release, yeah. So we're now
wow.
40 releases in, yeah. But it was hard because, of course, MOQ issues with the materials, with the factories, with the suppliers. So we had
Yeah.
to work around it a little bit. Luckily, we're quite well connected in the space, so we've managed to find some solutions. But yeah, 750 pairs. The only reason for that was because that's all we could afford,
Yeah.
because we had to open all the outsole molds. We had to open all the, like even this little lace tip mold that's on the end. Like we could have
Yeah.
just not put them on and saved like $1 per pair, but we were like, no, we have to do it. Like we can't be cutting corners. And then that first shoe, it was £90, right?
Okay.
Which was way too cheap for the cost price of that shoe. So the cost price was like 50, right? And we sold it for 90.
Oh, dang.
And we did that on purpose because we weren't doing it to make money. We were just trying to show people like, look, we can create a great
You
product
can
at
do
90
it.
pounds with awesome packaging. And look,
Yeah.
let's see what happens. And at the same time, I was sort of trying to push like these other brands. Like how many pairs of Nikes have I bought now and the box has been the same? Like every now and then, yeah, you get a cool graphic
Yep.
or something extra, but generally it's, in my opinion, not good enough. And I love these brands, right? I just
Mhm.
expect or have such high expectations, especially if the retail starts going above 200. And
Oh, I'm
being
right
in
there with you. Right there
being
with you.
in the backstage of it, like I know what the real costs are, so
Yeah.
it's a shame. But yes, so that was the first release, 750 pairs, and then we upped the numbers
Yeah.
at the end of the year to 2,100, and we sold out in 186 seconds. So we just kept going and going and going, and it just took off, and we had no idea. I was like, how on earth um, a YouTuber that's not known for fashion, footwear, or anything like that has somehow found its way and validated something in the sneaker space. And then we had Nice Kicks come in the other day, and they were like, because we were
Oh,
asking
cool.
them about this rebrand, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, whatever you do with this rebrand, the thing you need to not forget is that the last 4 years you've already cemented yourself in sneaker history.
Yep.
And I was thinking about that, and I was like, damn, because I'm always just trying to look forward and how we can do better, how I can grow,
Yeah.
right?
Keep growing.
When
Yeah.
he said that, I was like, oh my goodness, you're actually so right. And like some these moments, like just make it all worth it, Like just people giving me just recognition like that is just I can't. It's the best feeling, honestly.
Oh man, and you guys well deserve it because not only did you guys come up with a brand from an original thought, you guys didn't come out there and say, "Hey, let's make this dunk-like shoe or this Air Force One looking shoe." You came up with something completely different based on, again, you actually went out to the streets and like, "Hey, what works? What do people like? What can make us successful, but still be something true to us?" So that's like awesome. Like start like that's point A, like awesome. Point B, you guys, I remember because you guys sent me the Just Whites. I think you got did
Yes,
some retooling on that sneaker at a certain point.
we did.
So
Yes,
I remember I was like just the fact that you guys were able to really steer like change course of the ship. Like, hey, okay, we've heard what you guys are saying. We're gonna adjust this. I think it was like I'm holding the mochas right in my hand right now. So I know you guys. What is like the drop height of the heel? You guys adjusted.
yeah. So there was a
The
lot.
sizing, yeah.
I got them here too.
Yeah, I
If
love
you
the shoe.
compare the release from 2020 and release from this year, I guess. Um, yeah, there was. I'll talk about the change a little bit if you like.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, the first comment on the original shoe was that exactly that. So the protrusion of this heel was
Hmm.
going quite far out. Aesthetically, it was very aggressive, and it was like this wedge triangle shape. And some people
Yeah.
compared it to the Huaraches or the Yeezy 700s.
Hmm.
Um, but actually, the last that was used, the shoe last that was used, was an Air Max 90 last, which is hilarious.
Oh,
So
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I fused the Air Max 90 last with the width of the Fear of God's Nike basketball shoes, like the original like boot
Yeah,
almost, because that
yeah.
also had that perfect wedge shape that
Uh-huh.
Lorenzo is so good at, but it was sort of translated. So I sort of merged a couple of different shoe shapes to achieve the shoe shape that we have. So we open all our own last to achieve the right
Yeah.
aesthetic for what we want. But of course, this really allowed this angle to be achieved. But what was happening is people were getting stepped on, and I thought it was
Oh,
acceptable because like the NMDs had the same things, and you know what I mean. But like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
people were getting stepped on, and they just felt it was a bit wide. And then on the inside as well, there was this sort of triangle design here on the inside of the ball of the foot, which we
Oh,
sort
okay.
of removed. And then when you compare the later ones, it's a bit more, as you can see, it's not as linear, I guess,
Yeah.
but it's a bit more in. And then the inside doesn't have the
Straight
triangle
now.
anymore. But
Yeah.
I guess one of the big issues we had with this shoe, which I think I mentioned, was that they're fit sort of half a size small. And the reason for that was when you look at this area here, the end of the shoe is back here, but the heel sits here. So you have this whole space in between that's
Oh,
sort of dead space. So
yeah.
even though the shape of the shoe generally was like the correct size, there was so much wasted space here, which was all padding, but at some point, too much padding will just make
Just
the feet
pushes it.
and the volume of the shoe just be too small. So one of the things we did was we almost reduced this space between the end of the shoe and where your foot starts by half, and that
Yeah.
that literally covered all our problems. And these are like subtle things we, like you say, we don't really talk about. But if anything, the biggest change and consistency that we sort of progressed in the last 4 years is the production consistency, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, with this little tab on the back,
Hmm.
we gave them a measurement or like parameters that they had to stay within. But still, like even this pair, it's quite loose, and this length, which is supposed to be 1 centimeter, is not 1 centimeter. What some pairs were better, some pairs were worse, but now consistently it's super tight, the fin, and
Yeah.
it's always 1 centimeter, you know? So it's like these kind of production consistencies. It's just things we work on throughout the process that we don't always talk about. But it's kind of hard because we're a team of 11, right? And
Oh,
we're
that's it?
getting we're getting compared to some of these huge teams that have thousands of people, you know, and it's tough. It's tough, but we wanna accommodate
11?
everybody, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know you guys were just 11. Holy crap. I thought y'all had the bigger team. That's even more impressive now. Like, if you guys listening, our audience out there, you again, if you have not tried one of No Two Ways shoes, I want you to go grab a pair. Maybe it's a friend's pair, somebody to go grab a pair. Then I want you to go grab a pair of Jordan 1s. And I want you to touch the leather. And then I want you to put the price
Thank
tag
you.
of both shoes. And you're gonna be amazed because you would think that No Two Ways is charging you double what that Jordan was. How it's not a comparison. Like, how do you guys manage to not um, not waver on your materials? How do you manage to have a decently priced shoe, but still are giving you like again? I use the mochas for example. There's all of the suedes and the leathers are amazing, but the one I always go back to is the just white. I told my wife, like, when I open a box, I just like smelling it because the leather just smells amazing on that particular pair. I just open it up and I'm like, it's like a leather store. And it's just, and every pair I have is just, and from everything, like from that's, I love the khakis as well. I love just the kind of
Ooh,
that all season like suede
it's a
on these. Like,
classic.
you guys have not wavered on your materials and you guys have been consistently like fair with your pricing. How were you guys able to do that?
So the material quality is a definitely an interesting one and something that I have a strong, very strong view in. As much as the quality is important, for me, what's almost more important is the history and sort of the traceability of this material. It's generally not something that the public, I guess, cares too much about, and they shouldn't need to care about because I'm caring about it, right? And they trust that
For
when they
sure.
buy it from us that I'm considering this, right? But I guess one of the universal problems right now is the tanning process of the leather,
Okay.
where a majority of leathers are using chemical tanning, which is trillions of liters of water wastage, but also these chemicals are just bad for the environment and bad for your skin.
Yeah.
So what we do is we do a sort of hybrid tanning process that uses no chemicals, but it's sort of a veg tan process, but using a whole
Oh,
different more chemicals that allows it to still be sorry, not chemicals, but natural um, tanning agents that allows the leather to still be durable or long lasting or to
mhm.
contain the quality of the product basically. So it's really about that tanning process initially. Then where you source that leather is a whole other standpoint
Yeah.
because the traceability and the GRS rating of all these different suppliers are very important. But it's one thing to say that they have these certificates, but it's another thing to still be usable for production once the shoes are made. So a lot
Yeah.
of that uh, process goes through chemical and physical testing of the actual leather before we produce the
Mhm.
shoes and after we produce the shoes, because the chemical properties or just the properties of the shoes might
Yeah.
change as the manufacturing is made. But in regards to purely material quality, it's interesting because a lot of people use vegan leathers or bio-based materials,
Mhm.
which are almost as expensive these days as your nubucks and suedes and these kind of materials. Um, but it's not actually solving the problem of finding a solution to having quality product, having sustainable product, but then also having a very long lifespan of that product. So that's a whole balance between when you choose materials
Oh.
for your shoes. But in short, to get back to your questions, because I feel like I went off on a whole production
No, it's
tangent
still
there.
it's still in line. Still, it's perfect because it's giving me like kind of a deeper like insight of you guys' process. Because I didn't realize that I'm no kind of materials expert. I didn't know it was a chemical process for the tanning. I thought it was just kind of an aging and just like, hey, we coat it and call it a day.
Yeah, I guess the main thing is that the percentage, I guess, of the FOB, which is the cost price of the product versus the
Hmm.
retail price. And that, of course, in mass production, that would be like a $10 shoe that they're selling for $160,
Yeah.
for example. So that ratio is crazy. In independent brands or generally in wholesale is about three. So what that means is like, let's say um, the shoe costs 50 to make at a
Hmm.
minimum. In order to make some money in wholesale distribution, you'd have to sell it for at least 150, as an
Yeah.
example. Um, and a lot of brands, they do cut corners, and even though if that's their targets, they might make a shoe that's still 15 or $20, but at that rate, you really reduce the material quality of that shoe, and you start
Yeah.
to skip corners and just try to become streamlined, because they also understand that maybe their audience, they don't appreciate like how you appreciate the Just White leathers,
Yeah.
or like an Air Force One with action leather is still going to sell 10,000 pairs more every
Yeah.
year than one that's super super premium, just because of the reality of how all of it is sort of strategized, I guess. So it's
Yeah.
all they know, and they can make all these shoes at super high quality, but they're in a weird way, it's genius that they don't. And I'm also against it, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I see why they choose to do so in order to stay alive, and I think
Yeah.
that's sort of the key. But this is why we love to support independents, and they're trying to just disrupt a little bit and show the people what's up. Because at the end of the day, if we're charging this at 120 and we're sort of taking that market at that retail price, they're going to have to
Yeah.
come with something at that price range. And in my opinion, it's one of the reasons why the New Balance 1000 came out, for example, this year,
Mm.
to try and fit that sort of consumer profile in that
Yeah.
sort of price point category. Um, but yeah, I'll leave it there on material quality. I hope that answered your question.
No, it definitely does because I mean, like I said, you look at so many other things out there, and it's funny is you're the second person I spoke with. So I did an episode with Brandon from Clearweather out here in the states,
Nice.
and Action Leather came up, and just is something that being used more and more to, like you say, kind of turn and burn to get these shoes out as fast as possible. No one's really questioning it. It's funny because it is it's like you get the bad quality, and it's not all. I won't say everyone's putting out bad quality. It's just it's when you mass produce something like you said, it happens to you know it gets magnified, especially when you have these platforms like YouTube, like Twitter, like TikTok, you name it, where people are going to be inspecting the shoe on in the media. So like, hey, look, oh this leather this feels like cardboard versus this leather, or there's glue stains on all this. From every pair I've got my hands on from you guys, I haven't seen a glue stain. I haven't been like, oh, this leather's like not good or subpar. It is just, again, is just a testament to you guys really paying attention and trying to disrupt, because quality is something I think it's becoming more important. Like I think back in some years ago, let's say I think the height of like sneaker collecting before sale was a thing. I'd say anything from I don't know. I like to call like 2000. Let's call it 2010 to about 2014, 2015. Like when basketball shoes were like really still in. Like cared about the quality. They're like, I'm gonna go buy this Jordan. It feels like a piece of paper. Or I'm gonna buy this shoe. It's all synthetics. That's it wasn't a thing. As long as the design looked good, it looked great on foot. But now people are becoming more particular about their dollar because things are becoming more expensive. So I think you guys are right, like hitting it right on the head to be able to say, okay, we've come in this early. Like when we talk about early adopters, I feel like you guys are early adopters in quality and consistent quality,
Wow,
because it's
wow, thank you.
yeah, no, but it's a really a true statement, because you look at you guys have a team of 11 independent, uh, trying to make this, you guys are spending all this money on opening your own molds, which if anybody like who knows sneakers, that's a very expensive process to have your own molds made, and then you guys changing things on certain items that can only just add on to the bill. So the fact that you guys are staying consistent with, hey, this is our mission, this is our identity. When again, you could have every reason to cut the corner, but you guys haven't, which I think that is that that will be the reason you guys are going to be around. Not only your design, of course, which is amazing, but you guys' your values with the brand. I feel like that's going to keep you from the 4 years to however long. Like you said, you're already cemented in sneaker history for what you guys have done. Because no one else is like no bigger brand out there. Only brand I could think of that I can even talk about quality at any given point would be like Saucony, because they take care of their materials as well. I don't see any other big brand out there is like, let's make a point to make this like feel nice and look nice for the customer. It's just like, hey, it's a Jordan 1 or it's a Superstar.
Yeah,
Here
yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
No, for sure. I thank you. That means a lot. That thank you for that. That's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that, especially coming from you as well.
No,
And
thank
I
you.
think when it comes to quality, it's tricky because I completely agree with you actually, and the ecosystem is changing a lot. But it's also very interesting, and this keeps me up at night, right? It's like I say, the consumer psychology of what quality means is different everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So, for example, in Amsterdam, for example, they're not against like the velvety fake suede that is on the
Yeah.
Air Max ones, but what they really appreciate is like not having glue stains or just consistency in the panels, even if the material quality is not the absolute best, because they're gonna buy three pairs of that shoe anyways, one to wear, one to keep, and one to resell. This is just
Yeah.
how it is. Whereas when you come to London, it's like, oh, if the material was slightly thicker, this means it's quality, So instead of
Yeah.
using like a 1.2 millimeter thickness, it's like a 1.8. It's like small differences, but that in itself means that it's higher quality. Or
Yeah.
if the leather is soft, it means it's super buttery. Like in America, it means
Hmm.
this is super high quality, right? But actually, when it
Yeah.
comes to like the cost price of that material, in some cases, that supposedly shitty quality versus that super buttery one could actually be the same price. I think
Hmm.
what the brands are forgetting is that you can't just release all the same product in every territory in the world. And I
Yeah.
think that is what has diluted a lot of the ecosystem as well, because before you were getting regional exclusives that were
Yeah.
targeted materially, very targeted to that ecosystem in that country. And I think if they just paid attention a bit more as to what these different areas in the world want, and if they deliver that, I think immediately these kind of quality issues would be avoided.
Yeah.
Um, I also understand that it's kind of tricky because, for example, a London consumer might watch your video, for example, but your opinion will come from a sort of American ecosystem, I would say.
Yeah.
I guess it translates, but it's very interesting the references and the consumer psychology of what it actually means, the quality of materials, and I'm always learning about it, and it's always changing, and it's really cool to see. because there isn't they're not no one's wrong, right? Everyone has a
Yeah,
valid reason to feel the way they do, and then it's on us to act on that and make a better product. Absolutely.
yeah. And I didn't even think about that. You're right. With the regional exclusives they used to have back in the day, I didn't really even think about just different material uses because Asia might like one thing compared to America versus uh, Europe. So I didn't even, man, that's a great point. I didn't even think that was a thing, but now everyone's kind of getting, hey, everyone's getting the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that's a definitely a thought. Like that's just something I have to sit and think about for just sort of future
Well, now I've made you to stay
content.
up at
Yeah.
night too.
Yeah, I was like, man, now I'm gonna make shoes now. I'm like concerned about. Uh, well, as you guys keep growing in the world of sneakers, collaborations have kind of been the main topic. Is there, and you guys have done a couple, I feel like, and is there anything, is there, you have a dream collaboration that you say, hey, I want to work with this person or
Great
maybe this
question.
brand?
Absolutely, and interesting that you mentioned that because throughout the last 4 years, the first 2 years or so of the business, it was just me and Carl, right? And we were just
Hmm.
very much D2C, direct to consumer, website driven sales channel, just releasing drops every few months and just selling out and new drop, selling out new drop. Then last year, we sort of, which was our third year, we sort of introduced a always on sales channel, which sort of meant because what we realized is people discovered our brand
Hmm.
but they couldn't buy anything. And
Uh,
we at the time, yes, we could have done like t-shirts or socks or all these other things, but like we just felt like our shoes were not there yet. We needed to
yeah.
grow more. We wanted to set ourselves and so let us do shoes first and then go further. So that last year was our first year where we sort of had a range, a collection on our website that were allowed people to buy into the brand, separate from I guess the big deals that we call them, which were some of our heat and hype releases.
Yeah.
Then going into this year, having the D2C website collection, I guess, having what else did I mention? The always on
Yeah.
collection. So those are already two things. And then we're adding actually three more sales channels to that, one of which is
Oh,
collaborations, which
wow.
I'll get into. Um, but as you know, we did the No One made to order shoe at the beginning of the year. So we are
Yeah.
introducing sort of this made to order sort of concept. Not only does this sort of test the waters with understanding the demand for certain niches and certain subcategories of models, but it
Hmm.
also allows us to explore a different sales channel alongside our D2C offering, right? The two
Yeah.
collections in our D2C. Then on top of that, we are also having wholesale distribution now. So actually
Ooh.
next week we're going into a very big flagship in Foot Asylum this first month,
Oh,
and
congrats, man.
it's gonna be huge. I don't know when this is gonna come out, but it's supposed to be a huge surprise. But it might this might come out when
When's this
it's
gonna
already happened.
happen? Just
This is next week, Wednesday, I
we'll
believe.
be after that, so we won't ruin your surprise.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, we
We'll
would have.
probably be the
We're
following week.
well, we'll be in there, so that's huge.
Awesome.
We signed a long-term deal with them, and they're giving us so many things. We have had talks with a lot of different retailers, but none of which really felt as authentic as
Okay.
this relationship is has become actually. And alongside them, they also have a more luxury boutique called Seven Store, um, which will get some of the super hyped releases as well. So we're now introducing this wholesale channel. Um, which is retail, physical retail and
Oh,
online retail in the UK that will start with like 5 doors and then we'll go to 20 doors and it will just keep going and we expand this way. And then finally, we have the collaborations that you mentioned.
yeah.
So at the beginning of, no, actually, let me go back to end of last year. That was the first really collaboration that we had done. And we have a delivery service here called Deliveroo. I'm not
Yep.
sure if
So,
it's the same there,
no, we
but
don't have that one, but I remember seeing that the collaboration through you guys' socials and everything.
yeah, so when it comes to collaborations, I've also been very vocal about it internally, where people, of course, are super keen. It's like, oh, we should collaborate with this, we should collaborate with that. We get a lot of emails in all the time for some very cool brands that want to collaborate. But for me, the purpose needs to come beyond the product. For me, it's like an experience that needs to be created or pushing the industry in a positive
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
And the Deliveroo collab, I think, was a perfect example of that in my case because we didn't actually release a product. All we did was show the industry that you can have shoes as a restaurant on Deliveroo and then
Yeah.
buy your shoes on the app, watch your shoes come, and then within half an hour the shoes are on your doorstep. That concept just was never been done, right?
That
There
was
was
cool.
not
Yeah.
like it just hadn't been done, and I was like, I want to do this for other stuff. Like not even just for my brand, you know. I want to buy a drop or some clothes or whatever, and I know this is sort of like just a sort of bougie thing. Like I know it's
Yeah.
not something for everybody, but like the idea of it, I think, was quite fun and quite cool, and they were super down. So when we reached out to them, they were all in for it, and they built the
Yeah.
app all around us and created like a special subsection for just shoes,
Oh, so
and it was
cool.
just all super new for them. And so that, for to me, that's like a cool collaboration as well. A different kind of collaboration that I would consider collaboration as well is that because I went to study at London College of Fashion,
Okay.
um, also known as UAL, University of the Arts London. In my second year, I was given an industry project with the opportunity to land an internship the following year if you win that project. I ended up winning that project back then, and that sort of propelled my career. So when I started Notwoways, one of my goals and dreams that I had was to come back to this university and do a collaborative project with them in a
Oh,
similar
no.
format, full circle moment in for those second years, and someone would win an internship to come and work with us for a whole year, right? So we
Yeah.
this is the third year now that we're doing that, and we're not even vocal about this, but to me, this is what matters, you know, and that
Yeah.
I'm able to give back to the uni, but also give an opportunity to some of these young, super talented people. Sometimes it's even hard to pick a winner, you know, because they're all so deserving and so hardworking and so talented. It's crazy. So even last year we had, I think, three or two winners
Oh, nice.
because we just couldn't pick one. This year we only have
Everyone,
one.
come on. You
Uh,
all win.
exactly. But then, yeah, to fast forward a bit, this year, our first ever shoe collab was this year, a couple of months ago now, with the, is up there with one of my favorite shoes,
Yeah.
which is the HKE JME Ultimate. So with a grime artist called JME, very well known in London. And he's been wearing the HKE range, you know, the other ones, to
Yeah.
death.
That's the pair
And
I have right there.
one, yes, oh yeah, you do have one as well. Awesome. He sent us a voice note, and he's like, oh, I might even send you the voice note later so you can put it in somewhere. But he's like, yo, bro, I'm just at the studio with Frisco, P Money, and Skepta. Like, they're all talking about the shoes, but we really want an all black shoe. Can you do me one in all black? I was like, bro, say less. So I
I
sampled him
got you.
one. I was like, I sampled him one like 3 weeks later. I was like, bro, your shoes are ready. I did like a whole box, like it was just for him. It wasn't even supposed to be
Yeah.
released, nothing, right? It was just for him and the guys he was with. I was like, of course I'm gonna make you something, like just a vibe. And then I showed it to the team, and they were like, "Hey, should we release this?" Like, and I was like, "Well, firstly, this was just a vibe thing with me and Jamie. Like, we designed it together. Got to choose some textures and stuff, but by no means was just like a full collaborative process, right? If I was
Yeah.
gonna do like a proper collaboration, like I would want it like some of the other ones that I might get into later. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was very quick from a voice note, and then we just decided, fuck it, we're gonna release this shoe. Like we just
Yeah.
have to, and it just felt authentic. So we just did an event a couple of months ago,
Hmm.
or last month. I can't even remember now. Everything happened so fast. Um, and then we had a couple of cool people come out, like the likes of Helen Kirkham and Ramel Henry, and a whole bunch of sneaker community from London. And
Yeah.
I literally sent the invite the day before because I was literally panicking, like trying to sort the venue, trying to make some invites. I was like messaging these people, and I'm like, oh my god, I hope they're not gonna think that they're like extras on the list or something that I only now am inviting. Like they know it wasn't that, right? I was honest. I was like, guys, I'm only setting this up now. I know it's like tomorrow, but like if you want to come hang out, you get a pair. You know, it's vibes, and
That's
everybody
awesome.
came. I thought there's going to be 40 people. I had accommodated, I think, like for 40 people. Next thing you know,
Yeah.
the address gets leaked, and there's like a queue of 150 people an hour before we're supposed to even do it. And I'm like, oh shit, what have I done? You know, what have I done? And everyone was like, what's going on? What have you done? And but it was a vibe.
That
It was
is
a vibe.
awesome though. Like I mean
Uh,
that events like that, I mean that's I love when brands do that kind of thing. Like even if like I can't make it to the thing or it's like just be able to see it as like cool, like there's something just more than hey, it's not just a transaction, you know? It's like we have
exactly.
something going on. Like I love that man. That's awesome. The fact that it just kind of blew up from word of mouth, even better.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I sort of was able to accommodate, and maybe that's on me for maybe needing to organize a bit better. But like at the end of the day, it was authentic, it was real, it wasn't perfect, but if
Yeah,
anything, that made it more perfect. I don't know if that makes sense, but it
yeah.
just felt real, and that was sort of, and what to top all of that even off was that our suppliers were actually in London because, well, they were in Paris originally for the Paris Olympics,
Oh, okay.
and just on a holiday, and I saw that, and I was like, we have this event again the day before. Like these guys are all the way in Asia, right? Normally, the day before, I messaged them. I was like, oh my goodness, you're in Paris. Let me get you down to London. Come to the pop up. Come to this situation. Just thought like,
Yeah.
oh, it'll be fun. So they were there, and we did this sort of a little speech, and then I sort of included them in the little speech, and just my gratefulness to what they're doing for us. And I think even everyone that was there, they had never experienced sort of that sort of authenticity to the point where I'm doing a speech to our suppliers in that same space, right? And even for
Yeah.
them, they manufacture for some of the biggest brands like Louis Vuitton
Oh,
or Palladium or you keep going, DC,
yeah.
Dior, etc. And even for them, they have never been able to be in a room with some of these huge people, celebrities, artists, rappers, whatever, all of the people queued outside wearing the shoes that they manufacture. And then to top all of that up, they basically got like a 10-minute speech from us thanking them. And then there was a translator with them translating everything. And they were
Yeah.
literally crying. And these are like the moments that I live for. It's not oh, you got a crazy £1 million offer to sell the company and we said no, and like of course that's awesome, but for me
Yeah.
that's not what drives me, right? What drives
Yeah.
me is emotion and giving people authentic memories that in 20 years who knows where we'll be, but what they will remember is that moment in time, um, and that will live on forever. And that's personally how you create legacy, create heritage, create validation in such a
Mhm.
saturated ecosystem, is through giving people reason to remember you, right?
Yep.
And I think that with collaborations, I think it's very, very important because there's two-way collaboration, three-way collaboration, collaborations that don't make any sense,
Oh
and
yeah.
everything is just
Everywhere,
so
man.
saturated, and you just forget. Like there's so many
Yeah.
cool shoes, but I just forget about them because I was not offered a personal story to them, or I
Hmm.
didn't create myself a story in my own head to give reason as to why I should be talking about this shoe with my friends, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Because generally that's the story that gets translated. It's like someone will be wearing that Jamie shoe, get a compliment, they were like, oh my goodness, I got to meet him, I got a signed pair, I got to meet the suppliers, I got to meet the design team. It was all of these small things, I think, really, really add up to the meaning of collaborations. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're only doing it really now. Um, but yeah, it's absolutely going to be a huge sales channel for us, and we have some very exciting collaborations. We're
Awesome.
going to have two more this year, which will
Oh,
be
okay.
announced. One will be announced next month, and one will be announced in December.
Dope.
Um, and it's super cool. It's not what you might think, but you'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to give
Hey,
away too much.
we'll wait. But that's cool. Like your collaboration, your thought process is not like you said, just like, hey, here's another shoe we just partnered with somebody on, but it builds upon a community of sneakers. Getting people back together is again not just transactional. So that's again making a memory, making a moment from I was here on this day. I remember being in line with the 100 something people that my buddy leaked me the address and we got so that's cool. Like you said, somebody can come out 10, 20 years from now, like, oh, I remember that, as opposed to I gave someone $200 for a pair of shoes and that's it.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, along the way, we learned a lot, right? We took some L's, we took some W's, we tried
Yeah.
different things. Like, for example, this shoe smells like cherry blossom, right? I know you can't smell
Boy,
it right now.
really?
Maybe.
I don't. So okay, that's that the Model One Sakura. That's the one I've been hunting. I love that shoe. I was like, I don't know where that much pink, but that shoe is so cool. I didn't know it smelled like cherry blossoms. Are you
Yeah,
serious?
so well, we released them twice, right? So the first time we released them, they didn't smell, but then
Okay.
this year we did a scented version. So
Oh,
we had
that's
100
dope.
of the Model Ones, we had 100 Formula, we had 100 of the foams. All of those went like pretty instantly. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a
that's like the
scent.
one I'm fighting for. Every time you reveal, like, no, don't sell out of the
Like
pack.
this is
That's
the
my
only
one.
pair. that
That
we
is
have even. It's
amazing.
a
That
showroom
is so
pair. I
cool.
don't even have a pair myself.
Hey,
But
Christmas re-release them. Just re-release them on Christmas.
oh, maybe next year Valentine's.
There you
But
go.
yeah, so
Boom.
they're scent injected, right? And that was just something we were testing, like to see, because A, we didn't know the monetary value of something scented. Like,
Yeah.
is it more expensive? Is it less expensive? How does the consumer perceive something like that? Is it too gimmicky?
Yeah.
Like we were just trying to understand and explore a little bit, but also controlling the duration of the scent. Like
Yeah.
the supplier was literally like, okay, so do you want to last 6 months or 2 years? And I was like,
That.
why so specific? Like, what, like, and it's like, yeah, this is like how we work. It's like 6 months or 2 years. And then I was like, can we do like indefinitely? And they were like, they thought I was crazy, right? They were like, why? Like, you're gonna not make any money doing this because do you not want? They literally said this is like, do you not want them to just be buying the shoe every like couple of years and like create a lifetime for this product? I was like, I mean, are you supposed to do that? I was like, no, I want the shoes to smell good forever. Like, forget about all of that. Forget what you know. For
That
this first thing,
is
I'm
so
gonna
cool.
just do what we want. Like, who cares what it's supposed to be? Like, just let's just do it. So right now, supposedly it's indefinitely, but we're literally testing it, right? I mean,
It,
I'm just trying to be honest. Like, who knows? It might not be indefinitely, right?
yeah.
Like, if it's only 2 years, I'm gonna be upset because we like agreed that it wasn't going to be. But for now, we're sort of just waiting and waiting. Every day I'm smelling the shoes. Like,
That's
is
like
it
just
gone yet?
walking, you sniff
Is it
it. Like,
going?
all right, we're still good. We're still good.
And I have one that I'm wearing, and I'm like, is it going yet? And people think I'm crazy.
Wait. So I
This is
got
what you
okay.
gotta do.
So next time, so I'm a big coffee fiend. Like that's one of the reasons I love the mocha because
Hey,
I love coffee, man. You dump some coffee smell in here, you just come on. You just sit there sniffing
well, that's what
coffee.
I'm saying. And or it's like, because like there in my head, it's like there's just some awesome celebrities that, like for example, David Beckham. I just feel
Yeah.
like I've never met him in person, but I just feel like he smells so good. I don't know why. You just have some people that are just like a Dua Lipa, for example. I just know she's gonna smell so good. So it's like imagine you do a collaboration with them, but the shoe smells like them.
The scent,
I
like
okay, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe that's just bizarre. But I
first
mean,
of all,
I
that
think
would
there's
take a
something
collaboration to a
there.
whole new level. It's like
But this is what I mean. It's like collaborations need to have something that's just either super bizarre or it's just different to what exists because otherwise, what's the point?
well, here you go.
But
You
yeah,
do like a
who knows?
collaboration, like a pizza shop. You guys have like a pizza shoe and have like a pizza like Italian seasoning flavor on the shoe, like some wild.
Because I know like KFC sort of did it with Crocs and they made
The
the Crocs
Crocs.
smell like chicken, right? And
I
which I
think
thought
I've
that
heard.
was pretty fun.
Yeah,
But that sort of crosses the sort of gimmicky level, and then I feel like there's a sort of maturity level to this concept. And I
for
know there
sure.
are some brands that use scent as one of the senses to promote their products. Maybe not necessarily footwear, but it's not really seen in the sneaker sphere yet, right?
No, this is the first time I've heard that. I was like, blew
So
my
let's
mind.
see. But then I'll give you some other examples of maybe some else that, well, one of my favorite shoes that I still have, and I'm actually wearing it right now, is the what we call the Koiri, which is the high top, right?
Yeah,
And I think for me, this shoe is the most misunderstood shoe. And the reason I say that is because for the late adopters slash mainstream, they'll probably view the shoe and they'll look at it and they think it's a Jordan 1, right?
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, I absolutely agree with them to the extent that the general shape and it's a high top, and the first thing you
yeah,
think of is a Jordan 1. Like I get all of
yeah,
those things and I agree with them. And I have a lot of Jordan 1s, right? So I can't deny that a lot of my influence on certain shoes come from shoes that I own or love or that the community
yeah,
loves. But at the same time, there are a lot of problems that I found with not only recent Jordan 1 productions, but also older ones. And a lot of
mhm,
that also is to do, for example, with the width of the shoe. So
yeah,
with Nike product in general, I always feel it's quite narrow, especially the Jordan 1 is quite narrow, or even the
yeah.
Blazer, for example, is
Oh
very
yeah,
narrow. And there were just a couple of things that I just didn't like, such as knowing that if I was to think what is the most comfortable high top known to mankind, I can't place that as just a shoe. So for me, I felt there was a universal problem, and same with the foams. So we're trying to solve a problem, right?
yeah,
But with the high tops, my brief for myself was we're going to do a very small batch of just 100 to 500 units on
okay,
different high tops, but I'm going to make it the high top that I wish the Jordan 1 was
yeah,
from a
okay,
purely comfort, production quality, material quality, um, standpoint, and we managed to do it. But at the same time, it did not necessarily have maybe some of the visual identities that I was speaking so highly of when it comes from a consumer psychology standpoint. And what I mean with that is some of the consistent details that we use throughout all our shoes, actually. So when you talk about the deboss effect, or
Hmm.
when you talk about this translucent webbing, for
Yeah.
example, and you when I grab a pair of formulas, you'll still have the translucent webbing, you'll still have
Yeah.
the deboss effects, these kind of things. On the high top, you of course also have those with the deboss effects. It's kind of hard to see. You can kind of see them
Yeah.
on
I
the
see what you're
back
saying. Yeah.
and on the toe a little bit, and then we have the translucent webbing on the inside, and of course the heavy
Okay.
arrow influences. But for the consumer, that wasn't enough for them to be like, this is not a new shoe, you're just following. And that was good
Yeah.
feedback,
Okay.
right? Because that allowed me to understand, okay, so people don't want me to fix stuff that I think is wrong with other people's product. They want
Yeah.
me to just create new. I can do that, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm no longer wearing the Jordan 1s, and I'm wearing my own shoes that I've designed with my own head on the tongue, you know?
Hey,
It's
that's
like,
cool. I was like, if I can wear my own shoe, I'm like, I'm gonna.
and then I low key stuck the Surinamese flag on it. And right now I'm
Nice.
testing something that, or maybe you can help me with this, but I have not seen a shoe that is using measuring tape as
Oh,
their shoelaces.
let me-
You
that's cool.
know,
I didn't even
so
see that. That's cool. That's
and
cool.
I want to be the first to do it. And who knows, I might not be by the time the laces come out, but I want to say it here first, just in case, you
Hey, like
know.
I did it first. Hey, we got it here. It's on tape. Don't worry.
Because as far as I know, I don't know any shoes that have this. But I would love to be proven wrong because I'm always learning.
Yeah.
I'm never always right. Absolutely not. I don't know all the answers either. But I love finding things that people haven't done yet, and that
Yeah.
just is meaningful and it's just fun, you know.
Heck
Um,
yeah,
but
man.
yes,
Well, then I gotta ask you then. So we looked at a few of them. What's some of your favorites, man? Because I know I pulled out a couple of my favorites. That was the khaki and the mocha, of course. I'm almost embarrassed to show you this because I wear it too dang much. My foams are
the
absolutely like
photos,
these things have seen every
the
piece of ground in Houston, Texas. I think is possible. Like
the
I love
thank
like
you. I appreciate that. Honestly, it means a lot. Honestly. But yeah, to get into a couple of my favorites, I'll definitely show you a couple, and I'll show you one that's not even released yet, just so you
oh
can get that little leak in there.
yeah, there
But
we go.
of course, my first and favorite shoe has to be the OG, right? The
Hmm.
Model 1 Exuberance, our very first, the one that kicked it all off, the one that, sold out in a ridiculous amount of time. And
Yeah,
the first thing we thought was like, oh shit, we should have ordered more, but like we were not in a position to order more. But at the same time, we also realized like our product now is not the best version of the shoe, so we should not
yeah,
oversaturate something that we believe is not necessarily good enough for a huge, huge brand.
yeah.
But everyone that has got a pair of these is very happy with them. Is very happy that they're going for like a grand, I guess, also on StockX and shit.
Oh
But
wow, I didn't
but
know
like
that.
but like it's a beautiful shoe, and
Yeah,
that's has a special place in my heart. My second favorite shoe is the Sapphire,
I like that one. Yeah.
and the reason for that is that one of my middle names is Safirianto, which means sapphire in Surinamese,
Oh, okay.
and the shoe is sort of inspired by that, so the sapphire blue,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it was the first chance to really have a colorful silhouette, yet
That's
somehow make it very easy to style. So initially,
yeah,
when you see it, it's like, oh shit, I have no idea how to wear this. The moment you put it on, it's like, actually, it's very easy to wear. And one of the things that I'm very happy with as well is that this was the first time we injected recycled plastic bottle cap pieces into the midsole
oh
to
cool.
sort of have that sustainable element to the phylon
Yeah,
because I was just fed up of using new phylon. I wanted to use recycled phylon as well as inject bottle cap pieces into the shoe. So yeah, so the dynamic between fire orange and sapphire blue and the fact that this is not a commercial colorway yet could be seen as a commercial shoe makes
yeah.
this absolutely one of my favorites.
That's dope. I like
Um,
that.
Of course, the one that you have as well, the Mocha, has to be up there,
Love that shoe.
especially in the last month that we sort of re-released it a little bit. It was a small
Hmm.
number, but like we gave it to a couple of more people because people were just asking about it all the time. And
Yeah.
we did have like 200 units just to keep for us. Actually, we weren't going to sell it. It was just to keep for us because
That's
we
awesome.
have a lot of friends, that, like, for example, I was with KSI and he was like, oh, I would love to get me another pair of these, another pair of those. And I was like, bro, I really, like, actually asked for a pair of Sakuras. And I was like, bro, I don't have another one to give you. But you know what I ended up doing? I bought a pair on StockX and I gave it to him. This is the way. I'm like, I want to know what you want me to do, man.
Like, look, I got you. You just gotta do it this way.
And so that's why we keep some back. And then people were just asking, like, we were getting like 20 emails a day, like asking for certain shoes to come back. And we were like, you know what? Forget about holding these stock for us. Like, let's not be selfish. Let's just give it to the people.
That's
So we just
awesome.
gave it to the people and people loved it. And yeah, it really unlocked, especially this year, unlocked so many opportunities, especially in Fashion Week and sort of the grime scene and just the rapper music ecosystem really allowed us to bring the shoe back to life and give it a new level. And I was able to gift it to Jeff Staple as well, which is like
I
crazy.
saw that, man. That was
Like that's
huge.
just like
That's
don't even I'm gonna
awesome.
faint just even thinking about the whole moment again. So don't get me started on that situation. But yeah,
Hey,
honestly,
that's
it's
cool.
it's up there with some of the biggest moments, and that's why Mocha is definitely one of my favorite shoes. So it's definitely really those three are my favorites, but there might
So,
be about to be, where is it?
oh, here
A
it
new
is.
favorite coming soon.
Got the
And
exclusive here, guys.
we call this, it's the same as the Mocha color blocking actually, but we call this
Okay.
the blueprint.
Oh,
And I'll give you a couple of funny things because I know Nike released a blueprint range during Paris Olympics, and that was a whole. I was like, shit, should I still call it blueprint? Should I not call it blueprint? Are people gonna think,
they did
And
like
it's
30 different things. It's fine. No one's remembering that. No, I didn't remember that too. I remember the electric pack, but I didn't remember the blue. So
yeah.
damn.
So, but this story was built before all of that. We even knew all about
Yeah.
that. Just to be, yeah. So for me, this blue signifies a lot of things,
Mhm.
but first and foremost, we put London here, the
Oh,
London
cool.
skyline here, and have a little tube situation on the NTW. I'm not going to unfold what that might mean, but I think you might be able to figure it out.
I'm thinking
But
about it, but we'll say that
but
for later. So I'll see him.
what I will say, what I will say is that London for us is the blueprint of Notwoways, and it's where the brand is founded and where we're from, and it's also the first shoe that will have the new No logo on
Okay.
there, and it will also have a hidden rat. So, like with the JMEs, there is also a hidden rat underneath this label here.
Oh, cool.
So we've started to hide the rat somewhere as part of our identity. So each shoe
Yeah,
now will have a hidden rat detail that
that's
is
dope.
for people to find. But yeah, so this is definitely up there with some of
I like that.
our favorite releases coming up. I know it's quite sporty, it's very blue,
Yeah.
but it has a place. And it's, oh my goodness, it's very limited. I was like, we should have probably ordered a few more of those. But yeah, so
I
this
like
is
that,
one of
man.
my
That blue's very
favorites coming
nice.
out.
That's clean. Was the is
So
the is the blue suede as well, or is it leather?
it's a nubuck.
But
So
okay.
I
Oh
actually
yeah, now I can
stole
kind of see
this.
it. Yeah.
I stole this from Pharrell's latest Timberland LV shoe. Maybe I shouldn't
Okay.
have done that, but that maybe you can take out of the podcast. But so it's actually using the same nubuck as Timberland's. So it's very,
Oh, okay.
very robust and rigid, and has sort of I don't know if you can capture it on camera, but it still has, the movement of the hairs a little bit on the
Yeah, that's clean. I
on the
like that a
nubuck.
lot.
But it's a very premium shoe, and I feel like we need to start upping our retail prices maybe. But for now, we're good. For now, we're good.
Like, dang, this is getting too good now. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm thinking. Now I'm talking to you about it. I'm like, oh shit, maybe we're going too far.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Like everything you guys have just put out is awesome. That is gonna be a hit. I can already tell you that blue one
Thank you, man.
is
Thank you. I
that's
hope
gonna be
so. I
good.
hope so.
Yeah, man. No, that is fantastic, man. And I'm just I love hearing the stories. I love hearing the story how you guys have kind of like come together, your thought process, again, the value, the mission of the brand. And I really will say I know being independent is hard out there with somebody with the bigger brands out there who've been around for a long time. But anything you guys are doing like that, I think, is a huge disruption to the norm. And I think that's hang your
Thank
hat on
you.
that, man. That's fantastic what you guys are doing. And again, I really appreciate the product for what it is. I think it's amazing, and I know everyone who's wearing your shoes, seeing you guys out there feels the same way. So you guys, just hats off to you guys. You're killing it, and heck, I feel like next time I look
Thank you,
up,
man.
being
I
Foot Locker here
appreciate
in
it,
the
man.
U.S. or something.
Who knows? Honestly, who knows? But yeah, like this whole rebrand thing right at the towards the middle of the year,
Hmm.
it was tricky because one last thing I'll mention
Yeah,
is that like for the first, let's say, 3 years or so, of course, we were very strong with community. We have a very strong community still and a very strong audience. But what we understood was like even when we talk in regards to collaborations is that one thing that we were sort of missing was a sort of aesthetic slash vision that would attract some of these bigger companies to give them reason to work with us.
yeah,
And this is something we sort of learned along the way. Of course, we have our identity, we have the independent side, we have the fact that we were the first YouTuber brand to sort of be established and not be seen as merch, for example.
yeah,
But really to become almost a fashion house or a product design house that could stand on its own 2 feet, we sort of were missing an aesthetic. Um, Not necessarily for our audience, but for those other companies, right, that would
yeah,
maybe want to consider working with us. So the rebrand really came in at a point of understanding that okay, we understand our consumer psychology, but we don't know anything about expanding into the industry, how to get into wholesale, how to appeal to these huge brands. Is like this
yeah,
is something we need to learn. So we underwent this huge process already back in 2023 of like really starting to understand before actioning, right? It's always about
yeah,
understanding and really understanding it. Otherwise, in my opinion, you don't have the right to play in that space if you don't understand the space.
yeah,
So we really just tried to understand it, and we learned that we needed to have certain, it's not just about a color or about a logo, it's really about building your brand identity, your brand
mhm,
vision, some key
yeah,
signature statement pieces or components that can really signify what your brand is all about and give people reason and understanding to want to back you, right? So
yeah.
even like for example, we had some chats with Selfridges, which is a very big luxury department store in London,
Okay.
and the buyers from there were saying that we were using way too many logos on our shoes. They understand
Really?
why, and it's very cool. But to be on a floor with the likes of Off-White and Balenciaga and Louboutin and Arigato and Represent
Yeah,
and all these other brands, they felt that not only did the shoes feel too dissected, but also that we were using way too many different logos. And when I hear that feedback, of course, in a way, you take it with a pinch of salt because at the end of the day, you can do what you want. But at the
yeah,
same time, you have to respect that they know what they're talking about and they know what they're looking for.
for
So
sure.
at some point, you just sort of, instead of designing for yourself, you sort of have to tailor your mindset to accommodate, of course, being happy with what you put out, but at the same time, accommodating what they want. So going through that process, streamlining sort of your main logo types and your logo marks and the reasoning behind certain things. So even
Yeah.
for example, our new font now that we're using is actually a font that we designed ourselves, but
Oh, okay.
it's built off of the font that you see on like writing on the roads. I'm not sure if it's the same in every country. That gave me an idea. Now I need to think about that, what it looks like in different countries. But in London,
Write it down.
the fonts, yeah, literally, I'm actually gonna make a note after this. The fonts that's used for like bus lane or taxi lane or like
Yeah,
cycle lane, whatever, that exact font, but we sort of compressed it slightly because, of course, that's a perspective font that you're supposed to read at
for
an
sure.
angle. And when you put that flat on like your phone screen, you can't really read it. And then we did
Yeah.
consider the concept of like, what if people have to actually angle
Turn
your
your
phone
phone.
screen to be able, we
That'd be
felt
kind
there
of
was
cool.
something there, right? But then we also understood that the consumer psychology, they're not this smart, they're going to look at it, they're like, I can't read that, move on.
Next. Yep.
That's so we understood that as well. So as creative as you can get and as artsy and as storytelling you can get,
Mhm.
that consumer psychology piece is so important because there's place
Yeah.
for everything. You just need to understand who you're selling to. So what we ended up doing is sort of compress the font a little bit.
Okay.
Don't know if there's any examples on any of our shoes here. There's a couple, but I
But
don't think
that's
the
the
camera will
branding you
pick it
guys
up.
have on the
But
trainer right now, right? That's the same font you have
yeah,
on the
so the
trainer? Yeah.
new, yeah, so this, you can sort of see it on the insole. So this
Yeah.
bottom
Okay. I
font
know exactly. Yeah.
is that new font that we're using now. And of course, we have the No One as well, which we didn't even get into, but
Yeah.
maybe we'll save that for another day. But yeah, so really understanding like how we can build an aesthetic so
Mhm.
that the collaborations make more sense beyond the
Yeah.
fact that we are just a footwear supplier. Because, for example, the collaborations this year, especially, are all with companies or entities or restaurants or people that don't have a footwear offering.
Mhm.
So we are filling that hole with the fact that we produce footwear.
Yeah.
But there will come a point where we will have brands that have a footwear offering. So then what are we actually offering that is
Yeah.
unique beyond just that footwear space? Yes, it could be sneakers. Yes, it could be industry validation. Yes, it could be community. But these are all things that I believe are not things that are reasons to why people should work with you. It has to come from a vision. It has to come from an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Um, and we're definitely playing into the streets, the road marks, the fonts,
Yeah.
the color schemes, what you just see around on the roads mainly. Um, and things that I want to bring back as well is like, for example, when Jeff Staple did this Puma Clyde collab
Yeah.
and the pigeons were the colors of, you know, those regions where the pigeons were from. I think that sort of element is so cool. Like, why has no one done a taxi similar situation, but for
Right.
taxis, right?
Oh,
Because
that'd be
here you
pretty
got the
cool. I
black
didn't think about
cabs,
that.
over there you got like the yellow taxis,
Yeah.
like in Asia you got the green ones, you know, like they
Yeah.
like why is that? Why has that not been done? You know, like for me that's awesome, you know.
No,
And I
I
can
got a
name you of
question
so
for you.
many.
So like the London SB, or I guess was it SB Dunk? Yeah, the London Dunk back in the day, like the all gray, like the fall color. Or you guys ever use something
Yeah.
like that, like kind of like an all gray suede, and you know how they did that?
Oh,
Let's write it
well,
down. Let's write it
well,
down.
there's three up
Oh,
here, right here.
oh, see, look at that. Look.
There's the old gray, and then there's a gray syzygy up
Oh,
there,
see, there you go.
and then
Ooh,
we've
I
got
like
an old
that.
beige
The
one.
concrete
But
looking gray of the far one. I like that one a lot. Like that.
this one,
Oh,
right?
I guess the lighter one. They're all dope, but that
This
very
one,
light one, yeah, that kind of
this one.
creamier looking gray. I like that. I love that color. There's something about that kind of almost like softer gray, that like fresh concrete. I always
Yeah,
love that
yeah,
look.
yeah. Yeah, to be honest, this is this exact Pantone as the moon. Is it the Moon Rocks? I think it's the Moon Rocks.
The
I can't
Yeezys.
remember now. Yeah, one of the Yeezys, one of the,
Oh,
or
okay.
was it what was it called? The Oxford Tan or something like this?
Yeah, well,
Vegeta Tan?
they're
I
all the
can't
same
remember
at
what
some
it
point. I
is.
swear. Yeah, yeah.
I
Moon
can't
Rock,
remember
Oxford
what they're.
Tan, Dirt
I
Great
can't
Off.
remember anymore.
Oh,
But
that's so.
yeah, we Loki's did steal that Pantone from there. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. But at the end of the
It's
day, who
fine. They're
cares?
not doing anything
I,
anyway.
I'm gonna be honest with you, right? And I don't know if that shoe will ever come out. I know we have 200 of them, but they're just sort of samples, right? It's like
Yeah.
because we went from going to 750 all the way up to like 10,000 units. You know,
Oh.
when we did these ones, we did 10,000 of
Yeah.
these, and we were not releasing any of these anymore because I was like, okay, there's already 10, 15,000 of these in the
It's a
world.
lot of them out there already. Yeah.
We have done three colorways now. Between the three colorways, over 20,000 of them in the world. And I'm like, look, I don't want to oversaturate something that is not need doesn't need to be oversaturated.
Yeah.
But and also knitted shoes generally in the space isn't necessarily something that people are keen on. And to be honest, that is not my favorite model personally. And I
Yeah.
think for Notwoways, our bread and butter lies in this shoe, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna keep pushing this shoe forward above all else.
Yeah.
But there's some very cool silhouettes coming next year. There's 3 or 4 new models that no one has
Oh,
ever seen. So, but
you've been
still
working.
within this ecosystem, you know, within this
Yeah.
ecosystem. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I can go on forever, man. Sorry that I didn't ask you many
No,
things,
you're
but
good. I'll sit here a little bit. We can look. If I didn't have to like do my normal work, I'll sit here like, no, forget that. We're just gonna sit here and talk all day because I can. I love these conversations, man, because this is one of those like again getting to the mind of a designer because typically we don't get these conversations as often. It's always talking to the influencer or the maybe the I don't know, the like athlete or and they're usually part of the process too. So I don't want to say that, but we're never
Absolutely.
getting
Like
down
just
to
followers of the ecosystem and just connoisseurs
yeah,
of footwear, right? Like which are still super important. I agree with you. But I
exactly,
get it's a different type of how do you say the angle, I guess, in
yeah,
regards to the same product. But yeah, it's I think they're very important for sure. But you make it very easy to talk as well. You're very easy to
Oh,
talk
I
to, so
appreciate
that's
that. I
that's
appreciate
that's
that.
great. It's not your
Hey, at
first
least I'm
rodeo.
doing my job well. So hey, I'll take the compliment. Thank you.
Exactly.
Oh, perfect, man. Well, shoot. I mean, we looked at some things that we got a sneak peek of something coming out. We know you guys are working on some more projects and more models. Um, any events on the website coming up? Like I know you guys typically
Well,
like
I can give you a couple
oh
of nuggets. We
oh
are. I
how
don't know if
about
I'm allowed to talk about this. I might get in trouble. Wait,
it?
I can't get in trouble really. Low key perks of being a co-founder, I guess. Not big, not that I'm big-headed. No, joking.
If you could get a
No,
phone
man.
call from Callie, hey man.
Call to myself. Can I talk about this? No, I'm chatting shit. But no, I'm gonna share two things, but I'm gonna be vague with it,
It's
just
all
to
right.
cover
It's all right. We'll
myself
take
a
it.
little bit. The first one I will mention is we are introducing. Oof, I'm actually thinking twice whether I should mention it. No, fuck it, I'm gonna mention it. We're introducing we're introducing a loyalty scheme in the coming
Oh,
months,
cool. Okay.
and don't it will backtrack every single order in
Oh,
history, so people will get certain points and certain rewards and exclusive stuff that
oh,
isn't
people are
just
gonna love
footwear.
that.
Like it's gonna be crazy. Like the stuff that they get. This one of these tiers, the top three tiers. I was like asking, like, yo, can you just put me in this tier because like no one is gonna get to this tier, and they're like, no, you gotta get there. I was like, just get me there. Like I'm designing the thing that they're getting. Like, can I not just take one for myself? Like this is crazy. Like I need this, you know. It's like no,
That's
it's like we need
dope.
to save it for the tiers. I was like, I know, but like it's crazy, you know. But like some of these tier rewards are just insane. It's gonna be so fun.
That's
And then
legit.
the second bit I will mention, but the tiering will work. It will be super clear once we release
Yeah.
it. But you will get rewarded for various things, whether it's a story reshare, whether it's a purchase, whether it's just a like,
Oh,
whether it's a
cool.
comment on my page. Like it's super simple. Even if you show
Yeah.
up to an event wearing a specific shoe, you get certain points, etc., etc.
Boom.
So that's super. It's a very community driven piece, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily something that people have to buy to get into. Absolutely not. It's
Yeah.
just rewarding them for being loyal and supporting us, right?
That's
Because
awesome.
I feel like people that have bought more than three pairs deserve something. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
come on, like people like yourself and. You know, I want to give back something. Like they deserve something, even though we're not making much money with the shoes. It doesn't matter. Like it's a community. You know.
Yeah.
Um, this is why we do it. But then, yeah, the second bit, which again, I'm like, oh shit, do I mention it? Do I mention it?
Be vague.
But
Just be vague. As
yeah,
well.
yeah. So as you might know, we have this Instagram at No,
Hmm.
and we did some crazy activations like the skywriting over Nike headquarters in Portland and some crazy other things. You know, over the past 6 months, we've been low key nudging a little bit at Nike. You know, like we did like a CGTV campaign outside of their flagship store here. We did a whole campaign on Air Max Day. You know, we've been low
I
key
love it.
digging
I
at them,
love it,
but
man.
not because I don't like them, because I love them. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you can poke at the Giants a little bit to get a
Yeah, it's just
reaction.
friendly banter. I mean, we all
You
look.
know,
I talk crap about Nike all the time, but I think I talk crap about them because I expect so much of them because I love the brand.
that
Yeah,
exactly. Like most of my collection is Nike shoes, like
it's
all the
saying
way
I'm
from
like
the
looking behind me, like,
85s.
well,
Like,
I'm talking nonsense and all
well, there you
behind, but
go,
like,
exactly.
it's because I want so
But
much more for you guys.
then I always feel like if I can do something, I feel like they can do it so much better because the teams that they have is just incredible, you know.
Yeah,
But
man.
I never really know whether they were actually watching. And then
Yeah.
literally yesterday, I'll share this. I got an email from them and they actually offered me an opportunity. And I was like, this is fucking hilarious. Like, because of course I'm no two and two are true. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah,
But like to
that's
get that
crazy.
from them was just a compliment, and it wasn't just like a low key role. It was like a serious role, and I was like, damn, this
Yeah.
is. Hey, let's show them what we're about. If anything, it given me confidence, you know, to go. Hey, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like, let's show them what we got. If they're watching now, I know they're watching. Like, let's show them what we got. Like, of course,
That's
I'm not.
amazing, dude.
I would never take opportunities like this just like that. You know, I built this from nothing.
Yeah.
Like, Notwoways is my life.
But just like the
Um,
validation, knowing it's like someone's like
exactly.
appreciating what I'm doing, that's awesome.
And but don't get me wrong, like I do see how, like for example, how Virgil used to do it when he had I'm nowhere near Virgil, and he's one of my role models. But
Yeah.
like you can sort of try and visualize how he may have managed to work these different routes at the same time and still be
Yeah.
there if those companies allow and it works. But in my head, like, A, I don't know if I'm good enough for that, in truth. I'm just going to be honest. And
Yeah.
two, I have so much of my heart in those two ways, knowing that we started this from nothing, knowing that we have so much excitement and so much community,
Right.
and the fact that we're doing something that till this day is not really tried by anyone else.
For sure.
Like, yeah, we had the Marcus Brownlee shoe with Atoms towards the end of last year, which was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
similarly to those previous examples back in 2019, they're not set up to sustain multiple drops. So
Yeah.
those people that bought that shoe the first time, I don't know if they're going to buy another colorway again. Because I bought
Yeah.
one, but I ended up paying like £290 all in with
Oh.
the taxes and everything, right? And I still bought it because not only do I love footwear, yes, of course I can go off on a whole tangent on the design of the whole shoe. But at the end of the day, he's a cool guy. He created
Yeah.
footwear. I can only respect it,
Yeah.
but but I also see a view where he would not be able to sustain that unless something changes drastically,
For sure.
which hurts me a bit because I feel like he deserves more, And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that Atoms are bad at all. Like, I love that they're trying and I love that they're reaching out to these kind of new type of collaborations. But
Yeah.
from my view, if you're going to do those kind of things, you really need to understand the market before you
Yeah.
play in it. Like, I keep saying that, and I
Yeah.
feel like they don't really, or maybe they do, but they're not portraying like they do. So
Yeah. It's like be
even in their
prepared, not get
case,
aspect.
even in their
Yeah.
case, they were pushing the sustainability a little bit. They were saying, oh, it's the most comfortable high top, which absolutely could be true, could be completely valid. But how much of the industry do you actually know? This is what I'm
Yeah.
always like thinking about. And I would
Yeah.
love to talk to them and help them if they feel like I could. But I just love talking to people, right? I always love learning,
Yeah.
and who knows? Maybe they do. Maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm just chatting shit. Who knows? But this is just my view and a designer's insight, I guess. Um, but yeah,
Nah, man, that's
yeah, that gives you
awesome
a bit of
though.
an insight of
Yeah,
Notwoways.
I look. That is amazing. Like, first of all, like, congrats to you. Just again, not going anywhere, but just the acknowledgement is amazing. And then second, I think the loyalty program is going to go off very well with customers, especially because it's not, again, not all transaction based. So I think
I
that's
forgot,
going to
sorry, I
go
forgot
well.
to, yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. I forgot to say,
Yeah.
I never finished that story of the at no Instagram.
Oh
So,
yeah.
because I was answering that second point. Sorry to cut you there, but yeah. So because we have that at no Instagram now, that will become something. That
Okay.
platform, that page, at the end of this year, I am so excited because it's not something that people like. It's so left field that people are gonna be like, "What the actual fuck?" But they're gonna think it's like just a vibe. Like, it's
All
not even
right. All
footwear
right.
related. It's not even footwear
Okay.
related, and that's all I'm gonna say. I can't say
All
anymore
right.
because
Well,
I
hey,
I, I
look.
will talk.
Well, wait. Hey, guys, you gotta wait now. So we're gonna keep checking back. We only got a couple months left of the year, so we're gonna keep on following back on that one.
So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome.
It's gonna be so fun. I'm so excited, and
Yeah.
I'm for sure gonna send you some of whatever it is.
Oh, okay. Now see,
But you
my,
gotta
my,
wait.
my
You gotta
interest is
wait,
peaked
right?
now. I'm like, I need to know what it is.
I might tell you off. I might tell you off camera.
Hey, fair enough. Fair enough, man. Well, it's awesome, man. You guys got a lot of stuff cooking and a lot of stuff you've already like tried and true and proven already. So, I think anybody who knows about you guys will just say you're just on the way, just continuously going up. So, I really, Rockwell, appreciate the time. I mean, I could tell like just from our
Thank
conversation
you.
how busy you guys are, how busy you are specifically. So, I
Yeah, but it's
appreciate
fun.
the
It's
time, man.
fun. Thank you. No, thank you as well for taking the time. And I'm sure it's quite early for you over there, so I really appreciate that as well on a
Oh, no
Friday.
worry. Dude, me and my wife, we got 4 kids, so I was already up, so
Wow,
don't worry.
wow. Damn. Okay, so
So
are you saying I need to make some baby shoes then?
to make some baby shoes. Hey, my kids will
Not
look.
yet, not yet, but maybe.
My son, he's 10 and he's getting into sneakers now. So the kid shoes are probably getting bought up more than men's shoes at this point. So
Um,
definitely A couple years,
So
man. Drop some
what
gems.
size is he now? Like, is he still in the C's? Is he like
Yeah,
8C or
not the
something?
seats. I don't know what the heck they are now. They have it's so weird. So
Or just the
he,
juniors?
I guess if he did, he would be a like a two in a junior. I guess I don't know what it is. So it's
Yeah.
not the C's anymore. So
Yeah, I'm trying
after
to
you get
think as well. Because
I don't
US
know what
sizing
they
is all
call.
over the place. Like the women's US size and men's US size, and then kids, grade school, infants is
So
like just so many.
we're
Whereas
size up
Europe
from
and
you guys. Yeah, or yeah. So I wear
men's
nine
US,
in
yeah.
UK. So I wear 10 here, nine there. So I guess if you kept going that way, he would wear a two here and a one there.
But then
I don't know.
maybe because if you take the women's size 10, that's not a
No,
nine, you know,
it's
that's an eight. It's two and a half sizes
yeah,
down. So
it's so
it's
much
chaos.
like
So
it's so weird, man. I
why
think
is
I have
that?
like
Why does that
I
exist? Like, this
don't know.
keeps me up at night. It's like, is there not a standard for sizing? I know it's difficult because there's so many territories, but like we
But
found a way to do small, medium, and large. Like, come on, guys.
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's so it's funny. Like if I even here, like if you look at a yeah, you look at a box, you have to put like four different sizes on the box. That's for anybody. So I look, oh, I'm hitting on my
Yeah, yeah,
microphone and
yeah.
stuff. We got UK, EU, which is crazy that Europe and the UK are different,
Well,
and
that's
then you got
yeah.
and then you get the US and then US men, US women. I'm like, can we just all get on the same size? Like, I got centimeters, and I think Japan does centimeters as well.
Yes, they do.
It's a
But
freaking
then,
hassle.
so Japan, well, to be super accurate, China does centimeters,
There, China
but
does centimeters. Okay.
Japan does the foot length.
Oh my god.
So the foot length generally is 12 millimeters smaller than the actual centimeter length, if that makes sense, the Chinese centimeter
Okay. Yeah,
length,
yeah, yeah. I got you.
because the size is 12 millimeters, half size is 6 millimeters. Um, but that's generally like the consensus. But it's like it's just crazy. Like I appreciate that brands obviously all have their own fitting and sizing and whatnot, but the fact that the sizes is not even consistent is just,
Oh,
or the numbers sort of, it's just crazy. And then you in European sizes, and Adidas will have like 42 and 2/3, for example. It's
oh
like
my god.
2/3 of a size. Now we're doing 3 millimeter differences, not even six. Like in
I
my
don't
head, that's
know.
like crazy.
I buy Adidas. I'm like, I hope it fits. That's all I can do. Like, I hope it fits because
But then on top of
Nike.
that, then you have to like get size up. Fear of God's basketball shoe recently, I have to get like 2 sizes up. Like my toe is in pain. Like it's crazy.
Well, it's insane. Like you go like the Fear of God basketball stuff. So the Fear of God basketball shoe, you go like a size up, two sizes up. But then you have like the
Yeah,
Fear of God, the other stuff you did with Adidas, like the California stuff. You gotta go half size down. I'm like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what you want from me.
Uh,
I can't do this.
Yeah, so imagine entering a space that is like that and then trying to come with product that has to fit perfect their first time.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't even know where my consumers are living the first release, you know? It's like you're just lost. Like like so you just stick every label on there, hope it all fits. And then, of course it didn't fit, but then we learned and we progressed. But like this is what you gotta do. Trial and error,
Yeah,
trial and error. Um,
exactly.
but uh but yeah, man, I really appreciate taking the time, and I know I can
Yeah,
go
man.
off on a tangent on a lot of topics and shoes, because I
I'm
just
right there
live
with
it,
you.
you know. It's
I'm right there with you, man. I love it.
I would love to talk to you about some of my collection one day, but well, I'm sure we could say that for another
Hey,
time.
we can spin a block another day. We'll come back
Uh,
and we'll go through your
that would be
collection
awesome.
from your Notwoways stuff, of course, to everything else you've collected. So we can definitely we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. We'll do a collection video
That
or a
would
collection pod with
be
you. That'd be dope.
because I feel like there are some shoes that you might not know that exist, like samples and such of all the big brands,
Oh
right? Not even motorways related, that
yeah,
you would not have
I'm ready
seen
for it.
before.
Come
Um,
on with it.
so that would be awesome. Like the amount of bread samples that I have, Jordan 1 bread samples, when they made that transition with the 85 and then the 94
Yeah.
releases, there is about, I think, 11 samples,
Oh God.
of which I have two, of when they made that transition, because I'm sure
Yeah.
you know, like the nubuck swoosh and
Hmm.
whatnot, and the change in midsole and all these things.
Yeah.
But to get to those from that original release to that final release, so much happened
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for the longest time, me and a couple of other friends were like on the hunt for all of those. That's like the ultimate grail, right?
That's
Like when you get to the
amazing.
85s, okay, that's a grail in itself. Okay, the 94s are still a grail as well.
Yeah.
But then you get to a place where you got them all, and then you discover there's
Transition to nothing.
samples. There's
Yeah.
samples of stuff in between, and you're like, what? And then of course it's hard to identify what's fake and what's not fake. But at some point you
Yeah.
don't even care anymore because I'll take the fake, I'll take the sample, I don't even, you just don't give, you don't care anymore.
Those samples are
Because
tough because it's
even,
like you can't prove, like no one can be like, oh, it's fake. It's like, well, not, you can't prove it's not fake. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's
yeah,
one of those,
but
like
then
you gotta have the story behind it, basically.
and if, yeah, a lot of them will have like backlogs of like stories, but also the
Yeah.
sample tags and
Yeah.
the
Serial
owners of the
numbers.
previous. So there's, yeah, exactly that. So there's a whole thing, as you know, I'm sure even
Yeah.
better than myself. Um, so it's just, that's just the fun side of it, you know. And I hope that one day people will be doing this with our brand like 50 years
Yeah.
from now. You know, this is some of the dreams that I have, where regardless of what happens with us now, I want people to be able to relive some of these moments in the
Yeah.
time of need, you know?
For sure.
Because in my case, shoes has helped me in times of need, even when it's
Mhm.
just being distracted, even when I need some money, even when
Yep.
I'm learning how to draw, you know? And it's just, it's, I don't know. I think you know what I'm trying to
I know
just
exactly where you're
send
coming from,
across.
man.
Like you
Yeah.
just, some people just get it, you know, but
Yeah.
it's
I know
like
exactly where you're coming
there's
from.
just so much meaning beyond just creating something or just buying something. It's
That's the
just,
community
it's
right there,
different,
man. That's
right?
what that's like the pure definition of the real like sneaker community, not just again back and forth money transfer, but this shoe has a meaning to me, or this, it's inspired me here. So no, I completely understand where you come from, dude. Like, I mean, I'll sit there and look at stuff. I mean, I'm nowhere near anywhere close to designer, but I can sit there and just look at it and just appreciate it. It gives me inspiration for things like, content I want to put out. So I'm right there with you, bud.
For sure. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, right? Because there's so many shoes now, because I can't wear Notwoways anymore, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I only wear
I said
Notwoways
that's
now, so I can't wear any other shoes anymore.
yeah.
Um, so the one on my side is like, all these shoes are just sitting here. Like every now and then I'll put a shoe on and I just wear it around my living room so the midsole doesn't crumble, you know? But
Yeah.
like what am I doing? Like, come on, like I'm wearing these crazy shoes that people would like go crazy for, and I'm wearing them in my living room. Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing, you know? Like, so this goes through my mind, but at the same time, there's something satisfying knowing that I've collected something, and the confidence that it gives me, even not
Yeah.
putting it on, but just knowing that I have it, in
Oh
a
yeah.
weird way, makes me feel like I belong. You know what I mean? And I know
Yeah.
that's not the reason as to why you should get stuff, but like that feeling of belonging sometimes, especially in the space that I'm in, is really helping, giving me confidence to
Oh
know
yeah.
that I can do what I do. You know what I mean?
No, most
Um,
definitely, man. I get that. Cause there's stuff. I mean, I try to wear everything in the collection, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. But
you
it's
just
cool just to have a
can't, man.
conversation starter, man. It's like, oh yeah, I do have that one. I have this version, or whatever it may be. So it's super cool. So we definitely we'll circle back on that one. We'll have that conversation.
Sounds
We'll set
good.
up some
Sounds good.
time, man.
That'll be
Cool.
awesome. That'll be awesome.
Perfect. But shoot, everybody, we appreciate you joining. Love you guys out there. And of course, always follow Rockwell. It's Rockwell Princely on Instagram. Of course,
That's it.
Notwoways. No, make sure you follow that as well.
Also,
So we'll make
yeah,
sure
true.
everything's in the bio for everybody. But until next time, guys, see ya.
Thank you. Thank you.